everyone. Welcome to Happiest Pod on Earth. I'm Ariel, a licensed therapist who uses clients' passions and fandoms to help them grow and heal from trauma and mental wellness.
And I'm Steph. I'm an educator who uses passions and fandoms to help my students grow and learn about themselves and the world around them. Here at Happiest Pod, we dissect Disney mediums with a critical lens.
Why? Because we are more than just fans and we expect more from the mediums we consume. So, Steph, what are we talking about today?
Well, actually, this is a very big topic, and we are heading into May. And one of the biggest things that us Disney fans celebrate in May is the season of the Force. So we're going to be talking about Star Wars today. Every time I think Star Wars, I think the Imperial March. So I'm always like, dun, dun, dun. It's just so much more iconic to me. It is not positive, but it's a banger, as the kids say. So yes, it is Season of the Force. So we're talking about all things Star Wars. I know that there are very big Star Wars events happening around the city and also maybe even across the country. Many people celebrate Star Wars in different ways. And we will be talking about not only those events, but also how we use Star Wars in our practices as well. Because I know that Star Wars being such an iconic staple in pop culture, it parallels a lot of different mythologies and different types of storytelling that both of us use to connect with our clients and our students. Ariel, I know that you just recently, like very recently, celebrated Star Wars in a big way. Can you tell us what you experienced?
Absolutely. So we had Season of the Force at Disneyland, and one of the events they had was one of their nighttime events, and it was the Star Wars at night. And I did that literally yesterday, last night. Didn't get home until after midnight. The way the night events go is they go from 9 to 1, and you do get to go to the park at 6, so like 2 hours earlier than the event. There were some things I definitely learned from this that I think we can apply to other night events. And then there were some misses, I think, on the part of Disneyland. So.
I see. I am very curious. This is one after dark event that you and I did not go to together. I didn't get to go to Star Wars Nite. I love the after dark events, but as I am a mother, it is very hard for me to pry myself away from my little ones. I cannot wait until they get older so that I can experience these things with them, but I am very curious to know your experience. I know the last time we talked about an after dark event was Disney Channel night, and we had a blast. It was so much fun and so like dynamic that I'm kind of still riding on that high, if you will, of Disney Channel night, because we've done other nights like Marius nights, Princess Night. They have had their hits and misses. But yeah, I know you can listen to those other episodes to kind of get a run through of like how everything goes. But I feel like Star Wars Night is very equivalent to Oogie Boogie Bash, to where it already has a following and people anticipate for these tickets to come out. So was it really hard for you to find tickets to this particular event?
So that was the crazy thing, is they were still selling tickets, I think even into like last week. And the tickets that sold out the fastest were the ones closest to May 4th. And then the first day of the event. And that was it. After that, like I think my roommate was still looking to see if like tickets were available, and they were.
Yeah. And I think that maybe has to do with like the actual day. Oogie Boogie Bash tends to sell out first, closer to Halloween. So maybe this is one of the things where they really wanted to be on May the 4th. But it is a weekday, so that could have contributed to it. But yeah, so like the other nights, I know that you get to step in 2 hours or so before the event. And when you went, did you get any sort of giveaway at the gate when you checked in?
So remember Disney Channel Night, they gave us a glow stick, which was supposed to be the wand. They only gave us the map and a lanyard. And I'm a magic key holder, so I got the magic key holder patch. That was another giveaway. So it does look like all of the Disney Night events have a patch as part of the magic key giveaway. But that was it. There wasn't any additional swag. So that was like miss number one, because you could have easily just done the glow sticks again, and that's a saber.
Oh, absolutely. That's like double dipping. And I remember when they gave us that glow stick, I was like, this is super high quality. It's not like those glow sticks you get at Party City. Like this was a legitimate like wand looking glow stick, and when you cracked it, it was very bright. So I'm interested that they didn't give you like Yoda ears or something. Nothing. Okay. Interesting. All right. So they gave you a map. Was it as detailed as the previous map that we got? Okay.
Yes, it was as detailed. So it looks like they've sort of learned their lesson from last year that all the the Disney night events will have a map that details the food, pictures of the food, where to find it, the different photo ops and characters that you can meet, as well as like shows or entertainment that they had around the park. And I was telling my partner, it's really funny, you don't get like the map early, you get it the day you arrive, and yet the map has on there transportation and parking, and it's like you would have already transported here and parked because they don't give you this map early. So he thinks that's part of like standard operating procedure that they have to put that stuff on printed material. But I'm like, you wasted a lot of space, or you could have like given us a digital version of this.
Yeah. I'm wondering also if they had it available via the app, but not many people use the app like that. I know that they did do that for Princess Night, where they had like a post that says, oh, the map is released so that you can plan ahead for your event, but they never really like advertised that very like forward, if you will. So yeah, I think you never really see the physical map until you get there. This is true. So I mean, you would have already figured all of that stuff out by the time you got there. But so then were you able to figure out a game plan of like where to go, knowing that you now have the map in your hands? We didn't have, I don't know if you had a plan of like a specific thing you wanted to do, because when we did Disney Channel night, we wanted to for sure do the wand picture. Did you have a specific thing you wanted to do for Star Wars Night?
Yes, there was one thing that I wanted to do that I didn't think was going to happen, and it didn't happen. I wanted to take a picture with an Ewok. First, it says Ewoks. There was only one Ewok, so. And the line, I'm sure people stood in line for at least 2 hours to take a picture of this Ewok. And my partner was laughing. He was like, that is the largest Ewok I've ever seen. The Ewok was taller than me, and I'm 4'11". It was a regular sized person Ewok, I guess. I didn't get to take a picture with them. And then there were also very tall Jawas, and you could take a picture with them. And those were the two longest lines, so we didn't get to do either of those. And so that was out. And none of the food looked interesting to me, but we did check the app. First, we had a situation where, so if you're a Magic Key holder and you have come early and you checked in at the other park, you have to check into the next park for the app to know that you're there. Otherwise, it's not going to update any Lightning Lane stuff, any Genie Plus stuff, any DOS stuff. So you have to do that. And we didn't, and the umbrella people told us, no, we can't do it for you. So we had to walk all the way back to the front. Have that rechecked in. Once we did that, I was able to see the food, and we were able to make an $8.50 reservation for the Star Wars themed like 3-course meal. And we've never been able to do the 3-course meal, right? So this was exciting. You can check in 30 minutes early. It even says it in the app. So if you're really trying to save as much time as possible, you get the earliest reservation and go 30 minutes early to do check-in, then you're like really saving time. And so we did an earlier check-in, and there were only 2 items that were Star Wars themed. The rest was the regular New Orleans menu. You didn't have to do all 3-course meal. You could just pick like one item. There was no dessert that was Star Wars themed, and there was no drink that was Star Wars themed.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting, because I remember, and again, I'm only going to talk about Disney Channel Night because it's so fresh in my mind. When we saw the tasting menu at New Orleans, they had like the Salisbury steak, like TV dinner. They had like something that kind of looked like a Kool-Aid refresher, things that you would eat after school. And I don't know where, I'm not sure where the miss was here, because and okay, I'm going to interject a little bit of my opinion in here. When they opened Batu, which is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, I realized it's an immersive experience. So you're trying to make food, drink, the whole experience as if you were living in a Star Wars like themed land. And to me, I was like, I wonder how they're going to blend real life ingredients with fake menu items and fake dishes, because how does that translate, right? Of course, you're going to do like the best you can with like a marble cake, and you're going to make it look all, galaxy themed. Or you're going to say like a Ronto wrap, where it's basically just like a gyro, but instead of like lamb or something, it's made from a Ronto. There are parallels that you can do, but I wonder, where is your limits at that point? Like how far do you go and say, my creativity is spent and I don't want to be making new things that are, against Lucasfilm. And even though Disney owns all of these, it's not like they can make things up on the fly. I could just imagine like the logistics and the planning and, the Imagineering that goes into that. that. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
was wondering if they were going to recycle ideas from Galaxy's Edge, not only here,
Yes.
or the ones that they have in Florida, and also the
Mhm,
recently shuttered Star Wars Hotel that didn't
mhm.
end up, living because they decided to shut that whole immersive thing down because it was too much. So I wonder if they were going to take some of those elements to put into Star Wars Nite, but apparently not.
Nope, nope. So they had at the New Orleans a battered and fried spicy 3 cheese Monte Cristo that was called the Mustafar Monte
Okay.
Cristo.
Uh-huh.
And that came with an exotic salad, fruit salad. That was actually the best thing. It was a dragon fruit that was the bowl. Like
Okay.
they used the husk of a dragon fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And it had dragon fruit, it had pineapple, it had green apples, strawberry, and I think maybe mango in it. It was really refreshing. It was really good. And the spicy 3 cheese Monte Cristo, James still thinks the original Monte Cristo was better, my partner. So he liked it, but knowing what the original Monte Cristo tastes like,
You can't get that
like
out of
you
your
can't,
head.
no, can't help but do like that comparison.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they had what they called smuggler's fries, and they were loaded fries, which is what I got, and it had a cheese on it, a very spicy pepper, which I asked them like to put the peppers on the side, and the seasoning. He tried it. He was pretty sure he tasted Old Bay, but I think they were really banking on that being spicy because once the peppers were gone, there was not a lot of flavoring, and actually it came out cold.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I had smothered fries when it was cold fries and cold cheese.
Oh, that is not the way to enjoy any sort of like melty fried dish is when it's cold,
No.
because then, oh, friend, I'm so sorry. That makes me sad inside.
Now, the thing we did learn, if you check the app regularly, you can actually do mobile orders for the themed event food ahead of time.
Interesting. Okay.
Like, you don't have to wait till 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
And remember when we did Princess Night, like the menus hadn't flipped, they wouldn't take our order. We couldn't order ahead of time.
No.
In the app you can. So the event hadn't started till 9 and we were able to get an order of it was the stacked cookies from Harbor.
Yeah, from Harbor Galley.
Yeah, that was one of the themed foods and we were able to get that at
Wow, okay. That's interesting because yeah, like you said, during Princess Night, it was like as if you were at McDonald's and it was still 10. They hadn't flipped the menus yet to let you order chicken nuggets. Like they were very hard lined on that. But I guess now not really. And maybe that's like a time saver now because as we've talked about in the past, it's very hard for you to gauge the different like installations and photo ops you want to do simply because you want to be able to have dinner, not eat too late because it goes into the wee hours of the night. But you don't know how far like everything is, you know, how long you're going to have to be weaving through crowds. If you happen to see something and you want to take pictures, like it's like a whole, almost like a festival experience where you have to really gauge what your priorities are and what you want to hit and if those things are worth it. So I think that that's a win to be able to do that. So that's definitely a good tip for next time.
And so we ordered the cookies, and remember you can always pick up your mobile food order like at 5 minutes before, so we had them before the 8 mark. Ate them, went to the Cafe New Orleans, did a 30-minute early check-in, sat and ate food, and we asked to sit outside because we wanted to see the water show. And so I had seen other people online and like influencers. I saw them posting a video of the water show, and it is that band that does the Cantina song, the Alien band.
And then they like come around the rivers of America.
That is the show. That's not like everybody zooming in on that part because it's funny. That is it. And so they play it over the speaker and they have them go around and nobody's doing anything on the island. There's no lightsaber fighting there. There's no other boats. And so it was fine that we saw it from
the sea.
Because it's literally just the aliens doing this.
Yeah. And, you know, so I was at Disneyland last for Dapper Day and we had stayed a little bit longer and we actually ate. We didn't eat at Cafe Orleans, but we sat like around there. Oh, we had clam chowder. That's what it was. I was like, where was I sitting? We had clam chowder. So we were hanging out there, and then Tiana now goes around in that same like boat that they would use for Fantasmic. And I'm sorry, it's not Tiana specifically, but it is like a New Orleans jazz band. And it is somebody, you know, who could sound like Tiana, but isn't necessarily. I know she has like a name, but she goes around, and then there is the water projection that is, I think it has to do with whatever theme is happening. So this one was, I think, still celebrating like Disney one, but this is like completely separate from the fireworks show. So they kind of alternate. It's like the New Orleans jazz band that goes around, and then they do the projection with the water, which is what I think you were thinking was going to happen, right?
Yes.
And
I thought there was going to be projections. I thought there was going to be, because remember at Princess Night, we had actual singing performers.
We did.
I was expecting
and we like fully missed that.
Yes. Yeah, well, I saw it. You all missed
I missed it because I was getting a churro.
Yeah. Okay, so we leave there, and James did another mobile order, and it was for crab fritters at the Royal Street Veranda. So the cookies, those were called Mos Eisley Spaceport cookies. And it literally was the tiny chocolate chip cookies from Harbor with like whipped cream in between. Like a cream frosting.
Was there a big difference in price from the cookies and that? Like, how much do you remember?
It was like $6 something. And I don't know if that was after the Magic Key discount or not.
Got it. That is pretty reasonable. That's not too bad.
No, not too bad. However, again, I was buying something themed. I don't know what the theme, stacked luggage, I guess, because it's supposed to be Mos Eisley Spaceport. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so then we did Cafe New Orleans. We saw the show. We walked over to the Royal Street Veranda because my partner had ordered ahead of time for a Splox fritter. That's the title. And they were crab fritters. And you could even see the little claws, so it was kind of cool looking, but that was kind of Star Warsy. For some of you who don't know, my partner is from Maryland. They are known for their blue crabs. Like, he's a crab guy. And again, the fritters were fine. He said it didn't have a lot of flavor, and it wasn't as full of meat as he would have expected. And I don't know what the price for that one was because he bought it, but I know that he didn't think it was enough for what he paid for.
Wow. Especially because crab it can be on the pricey side, but if you are paying that much, you better have a big old lump of crab in front of you, and you know it's enough when you can't finish it.
They were like little pops, I guess you'd say, of fritter. And there was 3 of them. He finished them up. After that, we went to look for photo ops. The Ewok, like I said, couldn't take a picture with them. So then we went to Galaxy's Edge to play Smuggler's Run. And what they did do was they closed Rise of the Resistance early on regular park guests, so that as soon as Star Wars Night happened, all of the individuals who had that special ticket could ride the ride right away. I think that was very, very accommodating, very smart, especially because you are paying extra. So you go to Galaxy's Edge, and the characters you can take a picture with are Ahsoka, Mandalorian with Grogu, Hera, and and they had no handlers for Hera or the Mandalorian or Ahsoka. They were just walking around. So it was literally like little groups of people just following them walking around. I got no pictures with them. You would have had to like walk and take a selfie. And I don't know why they didn't have a line and why there were no handlers. I think because usually what they do is they just walk back and forth and then leave. But they were there the whole night, so it was like always a cluster of people around those 3. The one that I did get a surprise and I did get to take a picture with was Cito, and that was because he was behind a fence where they have the different pod racers. And he came out, he told me a joke, and then just like walked back and forth there. I don't think he ever left that area.
Because I don't think they want people touching his armor.
No, I don't think they want people touching anything. And again, because it's like shuffle walking, I don't think it's safe either.
No, I mean, I don't even think the original Cito had much mileage on that costume because it's hard. They like have no joints at all.
So I don't know if that was the best way to go about that. They could have easily set up a line to be able to take pictures and photos. I think maybe it's meant to be more intimate.
Yeah.
However, because of how many people are in Galaxy's Edge, because it is Star Wars Night, so most people want to take their photos near the Millennium Falcon, near the pod racers, like near Galaxy's Edge. And so because of that, there was always just people crowding them.
Yeah.
I would say the only person who didn't have people crowding them was Kylo Ren, who we know also walks around.
Yeah.
And he was walking around and took some pictures with people. He engaged with a kid who had a lightsaber and was like showing him how to use his lightsaber. And very sweet moment. I don't know if maybe that cast member is just more seasoned in how to interact in crowds.
Right.
Or people are just so used, obviously, to seeing him
because he's around a lot.
Yeah. So they wanted to crowd the characters they don't normally see.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever see Hera, so I definitely, that's expected.
Yeah. I think you kind of touch upon a really good point. And also, now that we've been to so many of these After Dark events where you're supposed to have a more intimate interaction with like characters you don't normally see, I think there is a fine line between like making everybody have access to these characters or having the immersive experience be the forefront of what you want to do. Because as we know, the whole thing with Star Wars, with Bot 2, with Galaxy's Edge, is that it's supposed to be more interactive. However, we've seen from experience that if you just have a princess there and have lines, that's going to take up eons of your time. So
yes.
I wonder if they are going to either find a way to workshop it or just do these things where like here at Star Wars Night, you're going to see characters walking around. However, for other events, you're going to see them behind like, like a rope or something. I think the one experience that kind of did both of that at the same time is when we saw Stitch and his brothers and sisters in that, where it was a quick line, you did a selfie. Instead of like somebody taking a picture of you, the line moved really fast and like they rotated all of his siblings. So I wonder if they can do that for like Ewoks or for Jawas and say, hey, this is like a selfie experience as opposed to a photo op. Those are just things that I'm wondering.
So they did do a walk-in photo experience, and that was in where usually they have the DJ dance party.
Oh, right. Near Hyperspace Mountain,
by the Galactic. Yeah, and that was Darth Maul and Vader and 2 stormtroopers that were with Vader.
Okay.
And so they were on the stage and you just walked and took photos with them. The DJ that night was instead in front of the Mickey and Walt statue.
Oh, right in the middle of the park?
Yes. And played really good like 80s and 90s music. Walked out there and immediately heard, "This is how we do it."
Because that's the song that I think of when I think of Star Wars.
The DJ did mix different Star Wars things in.
Okay.
But I think they kind of knew the age of the audience, if that makes sense.
Right. That's true. But if they truly knew, I think, because when I think Star Wars, I think more 70s and 80s, not 80s and 90s.
Oh, yes.
Because when I think Star Wars, I think of like classic rock, and I think of, like really progressive rock that use like lasers and stuff like that, more of those things. But I mean, you're right, the people who are coming to this event are probably younger and are like more millennial age like you and I are.
And maybe he did play that music, but we were over at Galaxy's Edge, and then before we even got to Tomorrowland, we had to stop into Toontown to pick up our gift. They made the Magic Key members not just go all the way to Toontown, but inside Mickey's house. So I had to go
like
inside
in the back.
Mickey's house and walk around Mickey's house. And then finally we get there, we get our prize, and then instead of going to the right where you would be in the holding area before you take a picture with him, we went to the emergency exit on the left.
So could you have the option, I guess, to take a picture with Mickey?
He was not there. No, he was on Main Street.
Oh, so you just broke and entered into his house to get a giveaway and then you left.
Yeah, we were doing a B&E and there was nothing in Toontown that was Star Wars related. It was literally just us picking up the Magic Key gift. And that was the same thing that happened, I think, at Disney Channel night, where there was nothing over by the Hungry Bear restaurant. That's where we picked up the Magic Key gift.
You were on your way. I think the only thing that was there is that the Country Bear restaurant had themed items that you could get, but that was about it.
at least that. So they made us walk all the way to Toontown, and there was nothing there and they wouldn't let you play in the playground or stay. Like, you just picked up and left or used the bathroom.
I can imagine being a small child dragging along on this Star Wars night, going into Toontown and not being able to play in the playground. Like, I would be offended as a child.
It was not it. And again, age of the audience, probably mostly parents. And this was actually the most diverse group of attendees that I've ever seen. I loved that because I saw a lot of, because of how many generations love Star Wars.
Right.
I saw various ages of fans. There was a lot more scooters that I'm used to seeing at night events because a lot of the fans were older and needed mobility aids. And so to like make us trek all the way to Toontown for no reason except to pick up a patch that you could have easily done at the entrance of Toontown, because again, you could have just blocked that whole area off, did the entrance, because there were things in Fantasyland. So the really cool thing was It's a Small World had a whole projection on it of outer space and you flying through space. And it matched to music and sound effects, and you could hear like Rey saying stuff. And they had a giant sign that said Star Wars Nite in front of like, I guess like the little stage right next to It's a Small World. And there they had a lightsaber training and like lightsaber presentations, right? So you could have easily just ended it right there. We didn't have to go all the way to Toontown, but I think they just wanted to try and spread people out under, I guess, the assumption that there'd be so many people, right? So this is a way to like thin out
spread people
area.
out.
But it just felt like a time killer.
Especially when you are going to these night events, and I don't think everybody like sleeps through the day to prep for this. Most people go to work, especially if you're doing it on a weekday. Most people go to work, maybe get off early, go to the park, and then experience everything until 1 o'clock. I think that, when you're thinking about mobility and also like having like an equitable experience, that's a lot to ask for when you only have a window of 6-ish hours to do everything. It's a lot of walking, and people would get tired and cranky if they're really walking to places that they don't need to be.
So we kind of did a loop around. We went from Batuu to Toontown, and then from there we went into Tomorrowland, and that's where we got to take a picture with, or a walking video I should say, with Darth Maul and Darth Vader and his troopers. And then there was a mini show where stormtroopers, it was the First Order, so stormtroopers and Captain Phasma were gonna walk around looking for a spy. And they came from what is now, I guess, that big round, it's now like an eating area lounge for like members.
The Carousel of Progress is what I know it as.
The Carousel of Progress. That's where they came from. Where we ended up choosing to see the show was awful because they came down, they went around towards like the pizza planet, and then in front of the gift shop at Star Tours, and we were standing at the entrance of the carousel. So they were behind us, they were engaging with the audience, and we were just waiting forever them to come by. And then when they walked by, like my partner was pointing at like the whole time he was watching one stormtrooper that was just like always like a beat off, like did not get the end count. And it didn't look like it was meant to be silly, right? Like, oh, there's that, like that one. Like I think if you are really good at improv and you notice you're messing up the counts, you could have just like improv that you were like the bad stormtrooper.
Right. You could have leaned on it. You could have leaned on it because we all know that stormtroopers are like not all the way trained. They always miss. So it could have been a really fun, like silly way to do it, but I guess not. That's so interesting. So you went through going down Main Street. They, probably, did they have the projections on either side of the buildings on Main Street?
So because we were already towards New Orleans at the time it started, we didn't get to see them turn on the projections or hear like any song intro, but the projections were on the castle and Main Street. We didn't see any projections on Space Mountain like Disney Channel night, but it was split in half, light side and dark side. And then there were these QR codes that you needed to scan to vote. And then at a certain time, which was like at 11 or midnight, they were going to see who won, the light side or the dark side. And so by the DJ booth, at like midnight, like smoke shoots up and it's the color blue and the light side won. But that was like the digital, that was all the QR code was you did this vote and they had the smoke, and I thought they were going to change all the projections to like the winning color. They didn't do that.
It's kind of like Harry Potter, like who wins the House Cup?
Yes, and you did not get anything from scanning the QR code, not even like a digital wallpaper. So that was more of like a battery killer because you could keep voting to try and like win. I don't think that was worth it. And then they did a cavalcade with everyone in costume. So I would say the other really cool thing was this was the most costume event I've seen. of a
So
variety
everybody.
of characters.
Yeah.
Everybody. I think we were probably the only people who like wore just Star Wars themed outfits, and
Right.
everyone else was like just decked out. So many people.
That's awesome.
And so they did the cavalcade, took a picture in front of the castle.
Mhm.
We missed getting into the photo, but I got the photo. And then one of the coolest characters was Queen Amidala. She was
Oh.
sitting in the princess tent in her throne, so you had to like do a walk up. Right?
That's cute.
The cast members were not taking our cameras, so it was like us trying to take the picture, and they wanted it to keep moving.
Oh.
But there were a lot of people who stopped and were like able to get photos. So it was weird how they rushed some people but not others. But not only did she look like Queen Amidala, she sounded like her. Like this,
She
was
sounded like Natalie Portman.
Authentic, absolutely
Wow.
like Natalie Portman, and in the way that she talked in the movie, like it was awesome. And then the only other food item we got was cookies and cream churros at Tomorrowland that were spicy.
Oh.
Yeah, cookies and cream stuffed churro at the Tomorrowland churro cart again was fine. And what a horrible name. Like they could have, it's a black churro.
Oh.
The least they could have done was label it like black hole. I don't know.
Anything,
they had
really.
Over at Fantasyland, they had a green lightsaber churro, which was sour apple and butterscotch, but my partner was like, this doesn't sound like a flavor I want.
No,
and
not
then
at all.
There was a chocolate coconut caramel churro. And that one was titled Endo Forest, so at least they tried to give it a name. But yeah, this one, I think maybe it was like chai spices. I don't know what it was, but it was a weird flavored churro. And then we saw the DJ, we took a picture with Queen Amidala. We were leaving down Main Street and picked up our final item, which was at the Red Wagon, and it was a corn dog that was like smothered, I guess you would say. And it was like smothered in like street corn.
Okay. That's not too bad, right? Was that one good?
It was really bready.
Not enough meat.
There was not enough meat on it, and I don't know if it was because it was loaded. It had chili, tomato, cheese sauce, and like spicy cheese chips on it. And I don't know if maybe because it had so much stuff, they added extra breading, but that kind of like took, I don't know, some flavor. Like it was you eating a lot of like the breading. And I don't even think it had a name.
I saw it was just called a loaded corn dog.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, so I don't know. It was a very odd experience to know that they could pull so much from this franchise and to have cookies and cream churro, to not even try and create a name. And you did mention with the food, like the food's made up, like we can't really bring Ronto here, or blue milk. However, you can still have themed items. We've talked about this on all our panels. You can, like a green churro as a lightsaber, at least there was effort there.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. And like I know that because Star Wars themes, it's different planets against different like settings. So like we all know that there's, you know, a desert, there is a tropical island, there is a forest. Like we could pull from those actual like elements of nature to maybe you know, pair up food with whatever you would see there, like nuts and seeds for the forest, or you know, like an oasis for the desert or something like that. Like I know they can be very creative with these because blue milk is a hit. Everything that I've had inside the cantina is a hit. Even like the little like shrimp chips that I have over at like Oga's Cantina, those are great, and those are Asian shrimp chips. Like I already know what those are, but they've rebranded some of these existing items so well that I mean this, sorry to say, might feel a little lazy or a little bit of afterthought, which is disappointing. There are
other things that evening is if you went on Hyperspace Mountain, just like Haunted Mansion has seasonal versions, Space Mountain has a Season of the Force version where you can ride on it and you are experiencing John Williams' Star Wars score. You see laser effects and animation, and you are in a dogfight between an X-Wing and a TIE fighter. So,
that's cool.
That's cool. And then they added scenes from the different Disney Plus series. So the Ahsoka series, the Mandalorian, You can ride in different planets that you would see in the new Ahsoka series.
Mhm.
So Star Tours, they have so many storylines now. There's about 200 variations. So when you ride the ride, you know, there's a good chance that you won't get the same thing. And that night for Star Wars Nite, I do believe they added more repeats of the newer Disney Plus series versions where you can get Grogu, or you can hear Cassian, you know, and you're helping them with different urgent missions, or you're intercepting their transmission. If you went for the rides, you probably would have thought Star Wars Nite was it. And they didn't have fireworks this year. I don't know why, but there was announced that they weren't going to do that. I think because of like some late night orders during the week. I guess I expected more, and we talk about managing expectations. Maybe that was the problem. I was thinking of like such a large IP that you can pull from. And I wasn't also considering that there's probably just a lot of practical things that Disney has to consider. And so I don't know if I'll do it again. I will be honest about that. I can certainly get into a lot better, I think, more fun Star Wars events during Season of the Force, during May 4th.
Yeah, and there's plenty of places and things to do around at least Los Angeles if you want to celebrate Season of the Force. If you don't have the means and ways to go to Star Wars Nite, I know that that's pretty much a commitment when it comes to, you know, celebrating Star Wars. Of course, you can always go during like regular season. Going to Batu is immersive enough in itself. And also here at Disneyland, we not only have Batu, but our Tomorrowland is still heavily Star Wars themed. It hasn't really left because there wasn't a Batu back then. So I know along with Star Wars Nite, you can also go to the Academy Museum, which is in Mid-City here in LA. They are doing a May the 4th celebration and workshop. So I know the Academy Museum, they honor a lot of different types of classic films, pop culture icons when it comes to a movie and anything that you basically see on the big screen. And Star Wars is a huge IP, like Ariel said, and they are honoring that on the 4th. Many sporting events around LA do a Star Wars Nite, very like what they do at Disneyland. Of course, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim are right next door to Disneyland, and they always have a Star Wars weekend. This weekend, it's going to be on April 26th and 27th, very close. And they also do a light show, and they have giveaways like a rally monkey and a fireworks show as well. So everywhere around Anaheim, you're probably going to see a fireworks show either at Disneyland or at Anaheim. At Angel Stadium. The Dodgers always do a Star Wars Nite. It's always packed. They always have really good giveaways. This year it's on May 6th against the Miami Marlins. With the ticket package for Star Wars Nite, you get a Millennium Falcon bobblehead. I know Ariel's going to go to that. She was really excited when we were at the last Dodger game. So instead of a bobblehead of a person and their head bobbling around, it is Dodger Stadium with the Millennium Falcon hovering around the field. So that's super cute. I know that, Ariel, you go to a local bar, right? That holds trivia sometimes. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, Scum and Villainy is a local bar that is set up to essentially look like it is in the Star Wars universe. It is a fandom bar, so it changes out. Like when they had Game of Thrones, there was a lot of Game of Thrones themed items there. And right now, because X-Men is out, every Wednesday they play the new episode, and a voice actor visits during those trivia nights.
A lot of them live in the area and are local, so they always are really down to meet all of the fans and give them that more interactive experience with them.
Yes. But it is still always set up to look like a Star Wars bar. There are themed drinks there, and a trivia night there is every Wednesday, as well as during May the 4th, they have different type of activities. So, and our friend Jody, he always goes every Wednesday for trivia. He doesn't have Disney Plus, so that's actually interesting. That's how he sees the new X-Men show.
Yeah, there is also a big museum that is being built right next to Expo Park and USC, which is the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. It's not just going to be a Star Wars museum, but it's going to tackle all of the Lucasfilm franchise films. So that's set to open in 2020. It looks really cool already. I go to a lot of field trips around there, and the whole top of the building is supposed to be a living like roof. So it has greenery and stuff. It's like, it's really cool. It's something that I would actually probably see on one of the Star Wars worlds. So I'm sure when that opens, hopefully we can go visit and let you guys know what it's all about. But other than that, we have Star Wars at the Hollywood Bowl on August 7th, 9th, and 10th. And I know they do the John Williams score. Everybody brings their lightsabers. I know, Ariel, you've been a couple times, right?
Yes. Sometimes it is just a John Williams, and we're listening to all the scores of the different movies that he has created music for, and it always includes Star Wars. They also do the where they play the movie, a film. Usually, it's Empire Strikes Back. You get to bring your lightsaber. You can come dressed up, and those are the events that you're allowed to also bring food and your own drinks.
And of course, last but not least, there is Star Wars Celebration that happens every couple years or so. That is the big mama of all of the Star Wars conventions. This year, or actually not this year, next year in 2020, it's going to happen in Japan. So it would be interesting if any of our followers or listeners out there have either been to a Star Wars Celebration or are planning to go, because I have one acquaintance of mine when it was somewhere here in the United States, I forget where, but it's like hardcore Star Wars fans. So whether or not you have your opinion of Star Wars fandom, neither here or there, they are all going to be there. So that is probably the most immersive you're going to get when it comes to experiencing Star Wars with other people, and, just coming into community with other people who have been touched by the series, whether it's, in their personal or professional lives.
And this year, May the 4th, Star Wars Day, lands also on Free Comic Book Day. Free Comic Book Day is always the first Saturday of May. So there are a lot of comic book shops that are doing essentially a dual event. And so if you are trying to try and find things in your area to celebrate Star Wars, you can go on the Free Comic Book Day website. There's probably going to be a listing of things in your area. The other thing is you can always watch your favorite trilogy, right? They always came out in different trilogies. Whichever one you were introduced to or your family was introduced to, you can watch them in order of release or in numbered order and have a party at your house with different food items. You can maybe binge watch some of the new shows on Disney Plus or even the animated series. Like, there are a variety of ways to celebrate May the 4th and engage in the community building, because that is the thing about the franchise is it is so large, it is so vast, and spans multiple generations that you can create really good community and fandom connection. And some of the best ways to start finding that is by doing it on May the 4th and seeing what is in your area.
Yeah. And, like Ariel said, it touches upon so many different generations, and so many people were introduced to Star Wars in such unique and different ways. When we all used to consume media back then, when Star Wars was first introduced, it was only through the movies. But now, as we've noticed that they've had such a hit with making toys and collectibles that were specific to the movies, like, it really is one of the cornerstones of what pop culture and the influence of pop culture can mean to families, to different people, to people of all sorts of backgrounds and, education levels, and just bringing them together with, the classic narrative of good versus evil, but also challenge what good is and challenge what evil is. Because as we've seen the narratives develop and evolve, we are now looking into what exactly is a bad guy, what exactly is a good guy, who are the key players to that. And that goes into so many different topics that both me and Ariel use in our practices. It's just a wide array of information and just world building that, it keeps on giving every time. I know a lot of people talk about how Star Wars is tired and they're just doing too much with it. I think it's a great thing, because not everybody is going to love everything, but you're going to find certain people who attach to certain stories. And I think that's the beauty of having series like The Bad Batch, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan. I mean, there are so many people love those specific things for specific reasons, and it doesn't have to be for everybody.
No. I'm curious for you, Steph, what are some ways that you do see Star Wars in your classroom and after school activities?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Star Wars is just one of those things you could just print out a coloring page of Grogu now, and you automatically have a kindergartner's attention. They go, oh, that's Baby Yoda. They're probably never going to call Grogu by Grogu's name. It's just going to be Baby Yoda forever, because as I've now become a mom, all of my son's stuff was Baby Yoda, because that was the last franchise that kind of came out during the pandemic, and all of the licensing was just Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian. So you already have an in if you know a tiny, tiny bit about the Mandalorian, which is wildly popular. But if you get into the older students, you can start talking about values and ethics with, what are the motivations of Yoda and his teachings, and what are, Obi-Wan Kenobi's ethics and teaching when he's, telling Luke where to go, what to do, how to save the galaxy. There's so many lessons that go into not only that, but using mythology as well as another layer to figuring out what your ethics and philosophies are, because there's always going to be history whenever you're talking about saving the world. So how do we use that history to make better decisions so that you don't make the mistakes of the past and all of these wars and stuff that happen? So you can tie a lot of that into medieval history, classic mythology. The hero's journey is really good when it comes.
Yes, because that was George Lucas's intention, right? He specifically followed all of Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey information to the T. And so that is the easiest way to teach it when something was made specifically for that theory of storytelling.
Yeah, not only that, but history and political science. If you go into more of the high school and the college age students, you could talk about how the Galactic Senate, the Empire, is comprised. Who are the people that make those seats? What kind of people make those seats? How does it look and how does it differ from the Empire to Alderaan to different planets that the Mandalorian encounters? They are different government types and there's a lot of corruption in them. So you can talk about those dynamics and how those parallel some of the governments that we see today. Different sorts of civilizations, like a village as compared to a metropolis, what roles they play in the economic systems that happen on these worlds, is to just know your facts. And if you don't know everything about Star Wars, that's okay. You can learn alongside your students and be like, hey, we all know the key players. We all know about Rey. We all know about Luke, Leia, Han, Baby Yoda, Grogu, the Mandalorian. But how about we learn more about them together? Watch a short clip and have them analyze it. I think you don't have to be an expert when it comes to these things, but I think your curiosity in itself can really speak volumes when it comes to fandoms, not just Star Wars, but any sort of fandom that you're kind of using as a teaching material. Yeah. And for you, Ariel, I know you talk to a lot of your clients who are diehard Star Wars fans.
Yes.
Are there any resources that you found helpful or useful in your practice?
I have 3 books on my bookshelf that was shared in the Geek Therapy community, and when I saw them, I immediately bought them. The first one is Be More Leia, Find Your Rebel Voice and Fight the System.
I love that. It's like a purple. I love the purple. That's so cool.
Be More Yoda, Mindful Thinking from a Galaxy Far, Far Away. And then Be More Vader, Assertive Thinking from the Dark Side.
And from what it looks like, those are very like small books that you can just kind of skim through, right? It's not like a novel. It's not like the Star Wars compendium.
And it is meant to be digestible. Some other resources, Dr. Travis Langley, he is a professor and he is the author of a book, Star Wars Psychology, Dark Side of the Mind. So if you are into pop culture and psychology, that would be a great resource. If you are somebody who needs a template before integrating this media into your sessions. However, you can also do character analyses, and we just finished TAGS, Therapeutic Applied Geek and Gaming Summit. This was this past weekend. And one of the presenters, Josh Lockhart, a clinical counselor from Canada, presented, what if Darth Vader practiced positive psychology? And so positive psychology has these very specific pillars on helping increase positive or affirming emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement in your life. And what if those things were presented to you, Darth Vader? And one of the things that he highlighted in the beginning that I completely forgot that blew me away, which is part of that empathy building to, little Anakin, he was enslaved.
Yeah.
He already started off as a disenfranchised person. And when you think of the adverse childhood experiences or ACE score, he had a lot of ACEs.
Yeah.
And the higher that score is, the more likely that you are to have chronic illness, the more likely that you are to have mental. And so, when I think of Vader, I forget about Anakin and I forget about young Anakin.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we know is that his largest motivator from psychological trauma was that he had a fear of loss. And that is the most human feeling. Like, even though grief and loss is universal, everyone will experience losing someone. That fear is still immense of potentially losing someone. And so all of his motivations to become Darth Vader was to be able to change the course and outcome of essentially death for someone that he loves. And seeing a world that meets the needs for him when they weren't given. And, think of being someone who's enslaved. You've never experienced empowerment. You've experienced power and control. And then, he became a Jedi and was being trained, and the Jedi indoctrinate you. And they had definitely specific ideas about him because he was the chosen one. So again, another presentation, even though they're the good guys, of power and control and not empowerment and upliftment. And so it only makes sense that when he wants to prevent loss, the only way he can think of doing it is not by fostering deep relationships that you can take with you when someone passes. Instead, it's to use power and control.
Yeah, totally. And I think all of that is so important when we're just talking about like the human condition, right? There's so many different facets, and it's so interesting to see that we have now looked at the human condition while thinking about these otherworldly characters that don't exist in this world, but they go through the same exact emotions, hardships, economic, global, and, on a deeper and more intimate level than we do. It's, and I think that is the beauty of Star Wars and why it has such a wide reach all around the world, is that everybody can connect to these stories and these narratives because the storytelling is so simple but expansive and has a lot of depth.
Yes. I think that there's a lot you can pull from the franchise as a clinician. You can certainly pull regarding mindfulness and meditation because this, they're in Star Wars, they're always talking about the balance and the balance of the Force. I think when you start to see Rey's journey and her being essentially tempted by the dark side, and that scene where she like touches like the glass or the wall, and there's like all of these versions of her, I think that really could be useful in doing like shadow work if that is part of your practice, if you're a Jungian. And even just talking about the concept of mentorship. Sometimes some of my clients struggle to find a role model. They have memories that are traumatic. They have maybe caregivers that were not caring. And so finding mentors outside of your family or within your community, Star Wars like gives you an example of what those different relationships look like, when they can be unhealthy, when they can be an actual support, how you have communication with a mentor and what they're meant to show you. All of those things are just essentially very potent themes for a therapeutic setting.
Yeah, I love that. And again, I feel like we could even do a Star Wars part 2 when we talk about this, just because there's so much to dive into, and I think we're really just getting into the so-called meat and potatoes of Star Wars, because I think when it comes to both of our practices and, our careers, Star Wars has a very deep reach into the levels of people that we can connect with and kind of explore a lot of these topics with. So, hopefully when we maybe every May we do a Star Wars episode, that'd be really cool, and look at different ways to celebrate Star Wars. And even though me and Ariel do not claim to be the biggest Star Wars fan ever, we are lovers of the franchise and the movies. They bring us a lot of joy. We have connected as friends over Star Wars, and we love dressing up and doing, fun things. Like Ariel used to make me little Princess Leia cookies back when we worked at retail, and it was always really fun to connect with other people, our coworkers, over Star Wars too, and just kind of nerd out. Again, we love sharing community with other geeks, and I think Star Wars is such a good way to segue into all of that.
So if you are doing anything very interesting or unique for May the 4th, if you just want to let us know how Star Wars has touched you, how you incorporate it in your life, be sure to DM us at happiestpodgt on Instagram, and may the Force be with you.